One of the most powerful things you can do is just to stop arguing with your kid. Like completely stop. This was really transformative for me. In many cultures, parents just don't argue with children.
Today I am speaking with Michaeleen Doucleff, reporter, biochemist and author of the best-selling book Hunt, Gather, Parent. After becoming a parent herself, Michaeleen began exploring how families in different cultures around the world raise children, especially in communities that still live in ways that are in some respects closer to how humans have lived for most of our evolutionary past. Her work raises fascinating questions about parenting, cooperation, emotional regulation, children's autonomy, and what modern families might learn from societies that approach child rearing very differently from many Western cultures today. Michaeleen, I am so happy to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
What led you to start exploring parenting from an anthropological perspective? I mean, there are so many parenting resources out there. So why this niche?
So I think there was two things. One was I was reading a lot of parenting advice out there based on science, based on expert advice, doctors, and it just was not working. I mean, it was not working at all. I was really struggling as a new mom, especially during the toddler years. At the same time, I was a reporter for National Public Radio in Washington, and part of my job was to go around the world every now and then to report on disease outbreaks. So I would be sent off to a very rural corner of the world. And I started to notice while traveling that in some societies, parents didn't struggle with the things that I was struggling with and with the things, people commonly struggle with in Western cultures, like raising a helpful kid, raising a kind kid, a respectful kid. In particular, there was one trip I went down to a little tiny village in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, a Maya village. And my daughter at the time was 2.5 years old, and we were really having a hard time getting her to not hit me, getting her to calm down. And while I was there, I met these parents who seemed not to struggle at all with their children. And, a lot of these homes, these families have a lot less resources than we do, right? And yet they were raising these incredibly kind and respectful children. One morning I was talking to a mom, Maria, in her kitchen, and her 12-year-old daughter got up, walked right past us and started washing the dishes, totally voluntarily, nobody asked her to do it. And I was really stunned. And I asked the young girl, why did you do that? And she said to me, because I love my mom. And I was like, that was really a transformative moment for me. I was like, I want to learn this style of parenting. I want to learn what these parents are doing. Because clearly what I was doing was not working. So I started digging around and really researching in books, talking to anthropologists, and traveling some more. And I started to realize that there is a easier way to raise kids. It's ancient. You can find it all over the world, and it's not just for the Maya families. And what was incredible was when I started applying some of the ideas with my little girl in San Francisco, they worked. And they worked amazingly. And so this was what I was like, okay, I have to share this because not only is there this way, but you can actually transfer it and bring it to a very different place, right? The city in America.
Oh, that's really fascinating. So before you kind of got this eye-opening experience, how would you describe your parenting before?
Yeah, I think in Hunt, Gather, Parent, I say it's my parenting is riding on a white knuckle ride through Cat 5 rapids, just this crazy ride, a lot of yelling, a lot of controlling, right? A lot of telling the kid what to do and then having her fight back with me. So a lot of power struggles, nagging. I would say, you tell the kid to do something, they don't do it, you kind of ask again, then you start nagging, then you start begging, and then you start yelling, right? That was kind of my method. And it didn't work. It's really based on control and fear and kind of this idea that I have all the answers, which is another thing we can talk about as a parent. I have all the answers. But this other way of parenting, which again, you can find in Mexico, in the Arctic, in Tanzania, in Southeast Asia, you can find it all over the world. Parents actually raise kids to be cooperative with them. So it's based on cooperation. It's not you have to do this. You're actually helping the child learn to want to behave, to want to be helpful around the house, because they're part of this team, right? And so it's really a method that minimizes this conflict, but you have to kind of release some of the control, right? You have to kind of start to see that maybe you don't have all the answers, and that your children can be part of the process of teaching them and raising them.
Absolutely. And this all sounds so, on one hand, intuitive, because it's the way you would treat another adult.
Yes, exactly.
But it's so hard to do in reality. I mean, I have read your book at least 3 times, and like your experience here, that is pretty much mine day to day.
Yeah.
Still, I don't know. So I need this conversation.
I mean, it is a mindset change, right? I mean, I think people ask me, okay, well, how do you get this to work? How do you get that to work? And I see that you have to shift your mindset about the role of the child, right? And your role in their life, but also really about their intentions, because in our society, I talk about this, we kind of think kids are manipulative. We think they're pressing our buttons, that they kind of have these devious motivations and plans, right? And of course, sometimes it comes across that way, for sure, no doubt, right? But I think that perception makes us treat them differently, right? It makes us defensive. It makes us not like them, as much, right? Because you don't like people who you feel like are manipulating you and controlling you. My sister, when I first had Rosie, my little girl, she said, oh, she's already manipulating you. And she was like a baby, right? Like, so we have this like, but in many cultures that is not the view. The view is that the child loves you and worships you, which I think is closer to the truth. And that they just don't know how to behave, right? They just don't, they don't know how to handle a situation, and they handle it by acting this kind of crazy, monstrous way, right? But it's not because they don't like you or they want to control you. And so I think making that shift can really help. But it's a hard shift to make, because then your responses to the child are much softer. They're much more empathetic. And so you don't start off with this very conflictual defensiveness, right? I'll give you an example. So one day, Rosie, I think she was about 6 or 7, and maybe 6. And she came in and she had these champagne glasses that my husband and I have had for like 25 years, like very, like really they're not that expensive, but they mean something to us, right? Or to me, at least. And she kind of had them in her hands, and she was kind of swinging them around. And I really wanted to yell at her, like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to break them, put them down," right? But then I paused for a minute, and I thought, I tried to have that softened view of her, right? Instead of this view that she's like, just wants to play, wants to break things, wants to mess things up. And I said to her, I said, what are your plans for those glasses? Right? So it's a very like optimistic, pro-social view of her behavior, that she's planning something. And she said, oh, I'm going to make a special drink tonight for you and Dad. And like, and I was like, see, like, that's like a perfect, like her intentions were so good. Right. And and it was true. She went and she made the drink, and it was really lovely and beautiful. And she really felt good about it. And we felt good about it. But if I had yelled at her, like the end, that would not have been the end. Like she would have either gotten really mad and run away, put the glass down. She would have broke the glass, smashed the glasses. And so I give this as an example of how like my view of her changes my response and reaction to her, which then in turn changes her behavior, right? And so I think the real shift is that, right? And it's hard because we are told and we have been treated the other way, right? But just once you start doing it, it becomes easier and easier because you get proof that it's true, right? That there is inside these little monsters, what look like monsters on the surface, like these incredibly kind, helpful, generous humans. They're just clumsy, and they don't know how to do it and how to behave under certain situations.
Absolutely. No, you're really right. I sometimes get it right, and then you can really tell that it works. It works.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And then your connection with the child is deepened, right? Versus kind of an erosion, right?
for sure. So I guess this contributes a lot to this, because one thing that really fascinated me when I read your book the first time was how calm many of the parents you wrote about seemed. They seemed, no matter what the child did, they were like unfazed. They were calm. That is not my reaction. I guess the view of the child is one aspect, and that contributes to this a lot. But are there other things that contribute to their calm they have?
Yeah, this is a big shift, right? And right, we tend to, when a child's energy and behavior is very strong and loud and chaotic and maybe destructive, as Western parents, we tend to match it, right? We tend to let it kind of fluster us, and at the very least stir some emotions inside, right? And if you look around the world, you see a very different response to children. Like there's a story in another book that I cite a lot in Hunt Gather Parent called Never in Anger. It's an anthropological book about living with an Inuit family in an igloo for like 18 months, or with the Inuit family for 18 months. Part of the time was in the igloo. And in the story, I think the 3-year-old was like hitting the mom with spoons in her face. And the mom is just, I think she says something like, oh, she has no reason. She has no rationality. This is what they often say about young kids. No reason, no rationality, no understanding is the word, no understanding. And she's unfazed. And yes, I think part of that is what we just talked about, like what I just talked about, that why would you get upset and respond to an irrational, crazy person, right? A person that has no reason or logic, right? Why are you getting a debate or argument with them? They are not logical, right? And so that's just a waste of time. So a mature adult would not do that, right? Because it's not going to work. And I tell this to a lot of parents, like, you can't reason with a 3-year-old. Like, you just can't. I mean, like it's just not going to work. You're just going to probably make the situation worse. I think the other thing to know is that children's emotional states, and the parents told me this, and modern neuroscience shows this too, the children's emotional state matches ours. Their energy, their and their response, and so if they're really like charged and upset and having a tantrum, I think many parents around the world know that if you stay calm, if the parent is calm and has no reaction and very little, only like a very calm, empathetic emotion, like, oh, I feel sorry for this kid. This looks horrible, right? To be all screaming and upset. And it's funny because in the book, I don't really talk about this, but I think this is more of what it is this finding empathy for the child and compassion in these moments, because that could help you calm yourself down, number one, because compassion and empathy are calm emotions, right? So but I think that's what it is it's the parent feels sorry for the child in these states, right? And that empathy and calmness then transfers to the child, and the child calms down. And, we all as humans have mirror neurons, and we mirror the emotions that we're in. Like me just getting calm probably got you a little calmer. And like, the listener gets calmer when I kind of calm myself down a little bit, and we kind of, and children are even more this way, right? They, especially from a parent. And so I think around the world, parents would be like, this is just what works. Right? Like one of the moms in the Arctic said to me once, if you get upset, if you get like have an emotional response, you're just raising your own heart rate. You're just like putting yourself in a stress state. Why would you do that? And I mean, I think we do it because that's how our parents did it with us, and so we don't have the modeling and the experience of it. But again, I think once you try to find that empathy for the child, I think it changes everything. I think very quickly the child will learn to calm down, because it's what the child needs in that moment is like a calm, empathetic model to show them what to do. And the parents in the Arctic told me, you have to show them how to calm down, right? You can't tell them to calm down. You know, you can't give them warnings to calm down. You know, like Rosie and I joke, my daughter, she's 10 now. We joke, we see people when we travel, the parent will be like yelling at the kid, calm down. Like, you know, it just like, be quiet. Why aren't you quiet? Like, you literally yelling. And it's like, when we travel, we see this, and it's like, that's just, you can't do that, right? You have to show them, right? And that showing is like this, finding the calmness in yourself. But I think as I'm talking to you right now, because I've been talking to a lot of parents about this, tantrums recently, and I think it is finding some empathy, because even if you're calm and you kind of ignore them, it's still kind of negative. But now bad behavior is different. Like what I'm talking about right now is like a kind of a totally dysregulated child, right? That just can't handle their emotion, and they're screaming, and like they're just, you know, bad behavior, like whining and being disrespectful, then you just ignore and walk away. Vast majority of parents in the world completely ignore. And not ignore in the sense that you say, I'm going to ignore you. Or in the sense, like yesterday, a mom said to me, well, I say to the kid, when he whines, try again. That's not ignoring. That is engaging. And like, no, ignoring means literally like maybe giving them a stern look and then turning your back, or literally just turning your back and walking away. Like, you're just not going to do any of it. You're not, this behavior is unseen.
Yeah. Okay. And I can imagine, I am not so good at trying that, but I have tried the opposite and it doesn't work. So
does not work.
It doesn't work at all. Nope. And so you already mentioned the team a little, and that is one of the other things that really like stuck with me, and that is probably the thing I am actually like working the most on, or like actually tried the most, I think, in my life. That like just involving at least my older one, like in cooking and like all the everyday chores, doing laundry and stuff like that. So why is it so important to have children participate in real like daily life, work, etc.?
Yeah, your life as an adult. Yeah, it's utterly important. The most important thing, for many reasons. But number one, it's how children are born to want to be helpful. Like, it's what makes us kind of human. Is that if there's all this studies that show that little children, you can see it, toddlers, they want to be helpful. You know, they'll do things, all these voluntary in the lab. They'll do all these volunteer helpful tasks without being asked. You know, and I think it has kept them alive in the past, right? It's evolutionarily an advantage, because the helpful child survived, probably, right? But I think what it's given us as humans is this need to help people that we love and that love us. And in Western society with little kids, we often shoo them away, you know, because they can't really help very much at first. They make a bigger mess, they make it worse. So we shoo them away, and eventually the child learns, probably like around age 6, 5, 6, 7 is when it happens, that their job in the home isn't to be helpful. And so that is one way that we erode children's helpfulness. And so in many cultures, children are allowed, like you said, to participate in cooking and cleaning, and they're encouraged. They're given small tasks that they can do, maybe very quickly, like, okay, stir the pot, and that's it. And then they go, you know. And what this does is over time teaches the child how to be helpful, right? Stirring the pot turns into sauteing, turns into chopping, right? And you gain skills. But it also teaches them that that's part of their job in the family. That's part of their role, right? And so by the time they're 6, 7, 8, they still want to be helpful, and they start to have skills that really make them helpful. So that's another reason to do what you're doing, is because you're teaching the child skills, and you're teaching the child, hey, this is what we do in our house. We work together, we help. Everybody plays a role, right? And in the end, what this does is it gives children this incredible sense of pride and satisfaction with life, a sense of like I belong, right? When you're helping people makes you feel better than even the person you're helping. Science shows this, right? And so I think there's 3 reasons, right? One is you're giving them skills. 2, you're teaching them to be helpful in the long term instead of eroding their desire for helpfulness. And then 3, you're giving them this wonderful sense of pride and accomplishment and like, I can do something. I'm a contributing member of the family. And purpose, right? And give them a purpose in life. And all of those things help children feel good mentally. And I think one of the reasons we have a mental health crisis with our teenagers and our tweens is because they're missing that purpose in life, you know, and that can start really young, you know, learning that, wow, when Rosie like bakes something and brings it out for dinner or cooks something or does something really helpful, I mean, the look of pride and joy in her face, right? You can't get that from, you know, watching cartoons or, you know, whatever else kids do besides being helpful. And so it is a mental health question, I think. I really think it is. I think kids are just begging for, they just so need this sense of like, what I do in life matters to my family, to others. We can't be mentally healthy without it.
No, I think you're really right. And it also seems to be an immediate like mood shifter. Also, this kind of do something and it's like, okay, kind of snaps out of a grumpy mood pretty much right away.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids are grumpy because they feel kind of purposeless, you know, and they want to grow. The new book I have out, Dopamine Kids, like talks about how purpose is absolutely required for humans. It's a fundamental need, but so is like growing and making progress, you know, and seeing that, oh, I'm improving, you know, and I'm learning useful skills. And yeah, it's a little mood bump, right? Like, oh, whoa, I can use the oven. Oh, wow. You know, I can chop a carrot. Wow. I mean, these are like a little bit scary tasks for kids and exciting, right? To do grown-up things, use knives in the oven and fire and, you know, and that, yeah, you're right. It gives absolutely a mood boost. And it gives a mood boost to know you do something that, look, your kids, you are the most important thing in their lives by far. And for them to do something that you care about and need, gosh, just feels so good, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Such a luxury when you think about it that way, having kids. They're such amazing helpers also.
I know. And they really, like a little bit every day is, you'll see, they'll gain skills like so fast and they'll blow you away. If you just give them a tiny, tiny thing to do, it's not much. It doesn't need to be much. And you don't want to force it, you know, really, because then nobody likes to be forced to do things, right? So they start to associate a bad feeling with it.
Absolutely. Then exactly. And on the topic of like skill, forcing, autonomy, I love the idea of having like giving my children autonomy, or at least my older one who's old enough.
How old is he?
My oldest is almost 5.
5, okay.
My youngest is 1, so he's not getting much autonomy yet. But
he can have it. It's a smaller range. You know, it's a smaller range. But inside that small range can be quite a lot of autonomy.
Probably. That's true. That's true. But sometimes for me, it can be really tricky. Like let's use an example. Mornings, getting ready for daycare. It's really like simple. There's this very easy routine. It's done every day the same way, but I feel like I'm constantly, you know, reminding, rushing, like eventually pushing her out the door with me.
The 1-year-old.
No, the 5-year-old.
The 5-year-old. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. My big one. No, the little one is just on my arm. That's easy.
Okay.
It's the old one I have to like chase constantly. Like how did parents in other cultures do this? Like how did they combine autonomy with getting places?
With the needs, right?
With
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple things. So I think I learned a lot about this in the Maya village because the kids, while we were there, were going to school. And so I could see kind of what happens. And I think there's a couple things. I think if kids have a lot of autonomy just in general in their life, and one of the psychologists told me this too, because I asked her about this. So a kid that every day gets 2, 3, 4 hours of very autonomous time where they're playing outside or playing in a park, in our culture, even an hour is a lot, where a kid is playing it outside in their yard or at a neighbor park, and the parent is not interacting with the child. Watching, maybe yes, but not sending any commands. So the child feels really autonomous. A kid that gets that every day, in the Yucatan, it was like 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day after school. It's a huge amount. And is more able to kind of comply with the family's needs when it's time, right? Because you don't have this sense of like, I'm being controlled so much, right? So I think that's one thing. That's what Susan Gaskins, a psychologist, told me when I asked her this question. She said, I think the kids are, when you feel less like you're in a bubble, you're okay when it's time to kind of do what you're told, I think the other thing is you probably are saying too much and doing too much, right? Because and I think that a lot of kids then push back. I think, like you just said, you do it the same thing every day. She knows. Mm-hmm. She doesn't need to be told. No. She really doesn't. And you can just say, like, I'm not going to tell. I mean, if you want, you can just stop telling her what to do. And I think she will do it. But the other thing you can do is you can just be like, look, I'm leaving in 20 minutes, you can handle it. Give her the power. Kids love power, right? And their own power, right? Like, look, I know you're 5, you can handle this. I think I've been saying too much to you, and I think you're ready for me to do this all on your own without me saying anything.
I think she would love that.
See what happens, and then you can like nudge her in the sense, like, if she's close, like around that age with Rosie, I knew Rosie could do it. And so I started to okay, if everything was almost done except the jacket, I'd like go get the jacket and like kind of hand it to her and then walk out the door, or the shoes, I would come and bring them and put them in front of her. Right. So something that's very gentle instead of like, go put your shoes on. So hard for a kid. Right. But if you bring the shoes over and you stick them by their feet, they know. They know, right? So you can kind of nudge her without words and directions, but I have a feeling most of it she's going to do. And then you can just leave her one day. Like one day I left Rosie at the daycare. I was like, she wouldn't leave. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done asking you to leave. And it was about this age. I think she was about 6. And so I got in the car and I drove. And I came back around and she was running out the door and like, she was kind of upset at me, but and I came back. I came right back. Yeah. But it was kind of just telling her, like, look, like, and then as they get older, you can talk to them about, like, it's disrespectful. It's disrespectful to, when it's time the family has to do something. And again, you have a lot more pull if the kid feels autonomous in their life. Like, look, I don't ask you to do a lot. But when it's time to go, we got to go, So try it. Tell her. She's up to her now. And, you can also loosen your standards. I don't know this about you, but when I talk to parents, there's kind of these extremely high standards for what the child needs to do before they get ready for school. And it's like, okay, so the shoes aren't tied or the teeth aren't brushed every now and then, or like the hair is crazy, like, the hair part, really, who cares? Like, it doesn't matter. It's more for you than it is for the kid, right? So, like, or whatever. Like, they're still in their pajama shirt. Who cares? Like, just, in many cultures, I think getting out the door copacetically is more important than looking perfect or having a very, like, So that's another thing we did in our house. The standards were very loose. Very loose, The hair did not get brushed for years. And now she has this beautiful blonde hair, super long, that she braids. And, so she did not hold on to that her whole life. It was just, not she wasn't ready to take that on yet. So
That sounds clever. So maybe, yeah, exactly. Not feeling like I have to control everything that goes out the door. No, no.
you don't.
Good.
You can like pick one or two. Like shoes, I usually am up, we live in the desert now and it's very pokey. So yes, maybe some shoes. But like, there's a story from like a Maya family once where they were going out into the woods, I think to collect plants or something. And the kid was like, didn't want to put the shoes on. And I think the Maya mom asked, I think he was like 5, like your child. The Maya mom asked like 2 or 3 times. They often will ask 3 times, very calmly, go put your shoes on. And then like 5 minutes later, go put your shoes on. Like no escalation. And then 5 minutes later, go put your shoes on. So they have this thing where it's always like in 3s. But then the kid still didn't put the shoes on. And the mom was like, okay, well, you'll go without the shoes. And they went out in the woods and the kid got their feet all like messed up and like, cut up and stuff. But then the mom was like, then she always put her shoes on.
Effective way of learning.
Yes. And it was, and the mom didn't feel bad. It was like, I think one of the moms told me one time, like some kids just need to learn that way from certain things, like I need to learn that way sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, that's really, I think you're right. I think you're really right. I'm going to try that.
Try. And then let me know. I'm very curious. I always tell people this, please tell me. Cause like then we know what, and all kids are different. There's no doubt, but the vast majority of kids respond really well to you giving them more power, right? And more autonomy.
Absolutely. So then another aspect from the book that really kind of has stuck with me all these years is the idea of family orientation rather than like child orientation.
Yes. Very big deal.
It's a very big deal, and it's very different from, at least when I look at like the way I live and many people around me, everything here is very child-centered. Can you speak a little about the family orientation and like why it's so important or helpful?
Yeah. And I mean, I think there is something like, because I've seen parts of Europe where it can be much more child-friendly, which I really appreciate that. In America, we are very we are against children. I mean, no, I'm not kidding. Like Rosie and I were in New York and like there was a restaurant that was like, sorry, we don't allow children. And she's 10.
What?
I know. Yeah. And so I think child friendly is good in the sense of like the child is welcome in the adult world. Right. And maybe there's some adjustments made for the kid. Like I remember when we were in Paris one time when Rosie was younger, and there seemed to be more in restaurants and places like little desks and little things for children and like, so you could think of that as like child-centered, but it wasn't. It was child-friendly. It was like, this is an adult place and adults are here doing their adult thing, but the child is welcome and we're going to like help them fit in, and this is very hunter-gatherer parent. This is very like the child is welcome into the adult world if they behave. They don't behave, they're kind of sometimes unceremoniously removed from the adult world. And again, it depends on the age and, the parents try to know, but they're welcome and some adjustments are made, right? So that the child can participate. And so I love this, like this, making some special things so the child can thrive in an adult situation, right? That's what I really think leads to a healthy child is with that. But what I'm talking about when we say child-centric, it's like things that are basically, there's no adult world, right? It's a completely made up world for the child, and the adult would not be in that situation if they didn't have a child, right? So like play centers, very kiddie friendly zoos, museums that are just for kids, like play areas. I mean, things that I just hated. I hated going to these things. There were just tons of kids screaming, misbehaving. And at the end, Rosie would just be in a horrible mood, screaming, misbehaving. So this is very unique. This is very new, right? These things did not exist 100 years ago for sure, maybe even 60 in most parts. And this, I don't think, helps children or the parents. but we have this sense that we're supposed to do these things, right? That our schedules on the weekends and after work are supposed to center around the child's needs and activities. And you do not find this anywhere in the world. Like, this is crazy and completely unnecessary. So if you don't like it, just don't do it. I mean, in fact, I would argue it does a disservice to everyone. So yes, but this mind shift is, it makes a lot of money for some people, having kids, everything. In our home, we've also recently we don't even have kid screen time. Like, we don't watch kid shows. I'm like, I don't want to watch them. And I don't want Rosie just sitting there with headphones on, watching stuff by herself. And like, she doesn't need them. She doesn't need all those cartoons, all that, So when we watch movies, we watch movies that we all will enjoy and find interesting and kid friendly, but also adult friendly. Like I think involving kids in your life, like you said earlier, and in this change can make a huge difference. Those two together is almost all you need.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. And it's a lot nicer. Like,
yes,
I really like your example of the kids' TV show, because, we also don't, mine are so young, but still she doesn't have any screen time at all. But sometimes we watch a movie together, like all of us. Then it's something animated, something we all enjoy. Yeah. And it's a nice thing. And I think it's always, me and my husband are way more into it than she is. Honestly. She's like,
and how it should be.
Yeah.
Right? We've kind of lost track of this idea that, I don't know when it happened, but the kids need, literally, the American Academy of Pediatrics has a line, like, they need screen time. And I'm just like, no, they don't. Like, we're like, they have not had these things. Even in my childhood, we had, like, Sesame Street and, like, one other PBS show. And the rest of it was, like, adult content, or family content, right? Not even really, like, adult content. So I don't know. We've really lost our way on this, I think, because all this living in this child world, whether it's on a screen or it stunts kids. Like, one of the psychologists told me, Susan Gaskins, the one I brought up before, she says it's an impoverished version of the real world. It's not helping kids, And if you look around, like, anthropologically, kids play and do, like, imaginary play when they don't have access to the real thing. So, for instance, the Inuit kids would create little dog sleds, or when we were up there, the boys would pretend with real harpoons, pretend to harpoon these boxes in this river, and they were practicing harpooning whales. That was play, right? But they were doing it because they were not allowed yet to go out and be on the boats with the dads or the families. And so traditionally and throughout history, human kids play when they can't do the real thing. And so basically in Western culture now, kids play all the time because they don't have access to the real thing. Once kids start to get some access to the real thing, the play kind of subsides slowly and they turn into functioning teenagers, tweens and teens, right? But if they've never had access to the real thing, when they're 15, 12, 13, 14, 15, they got to, what do you do, So, yeah, I think if you feel, if the parent feels terrible after doing something for just the kid, don't do it. Yeah.
Why?
Say, like, well, what would I rather do? I remember when we made this switch, this was one of the things that really changed our life. I was like, wait a second. So that would mean I would have enormous amounts of time on Saturday and Sunday to do what I want to do, And like, all of a sudden my life came back. And again, we had to, like, find ways of incorporating a toddler, but, like, we went hiking, we'd shorten the hikes, we'd bring something along. I'd end up carrying her a lot of it, which was fine. It was a good workout. And then the other thing I think it helps with is, like, taking the stress out of, like, kids don't need entertainment on the weekends. Like, I always say, like, for a long time, the entertainment on Saturday was making breakfast together and cleaning up. And then the next entertainment was cleaning the house all together. And this was great fun. I mean, it really was. I know it sounds crazy, but it was. And Rosie learned to make breakfast, and she learned to clean the house. And And then in the afternoon, we'd go do something outside, you know? And so this kind of stress of like, we need something scheduled at every moment can just go away. Like,
nice. Very good. Very good. That sounds really reassuring.
Yes.
One thing I'm curious about, whether you observe this or not and have any feeling or sense for how these other communities do or handle, is conflict, especially like conflict between children. Let's say an older and a younger one. Do you have any take on what the maybe non-Western approach would be? Because my approach is not working.
What is your approach? I'm curious.
It's stop it. Don't hit your brother. Don't be mean to your brother. Don't do this. Don't do that.
Right.
It's awful. It just makes it worse.
So I think that there is conflict between siblings everywhere at some level. I think it's very universal.
It's good to hear.
Yes. I think so. I think, but I think there's a couple things that can help kind of ameliorate it. I think one is teaching that your 5-year-old that she's kind of like you are to her, right? So I don't know how much of that you've done, but like she's really important because she's the big kid, and she's actually kind of like a little mini parent, right? And so instead of it being like they're competitive or they're kind of competing, it's more of she is in charge of, and you can overdo this because kids can get like to the point of so I hate because what ends up happening, I think, in Western culture with siblings is either the siblings compete a lot, right? And maybe you've got that might not happen because they're a little bit farther distance in age. I think that's going to help you. But the other thing that can happen is the older kid turns into the Western parent. Right? Right? Like there's like a controlling thing that happens. But in other cultures, the older kid turns into the Mayan parent. Right? Or the Inuit parent, right? And the Inuit parent teaches the older kid to be the Inuit parent. Right? And not totally, but like this is your role, right? And so what your job is to do is not only become maybe a little more cooperative parent yourself, but to teach the 5-year-old to be a cooperative parent to the little one. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, oh, can you look, I know you've gotten so good at like cutting these carrots, or you've gotten so good at cleaning this, or can you show your little brother how to do it? Can you be in charge of that for the day? You know, or can you be in charge of that for while we cook dinner tonight? Can you be in charge of helping him learn? Or, you know, whatever is like but it's like, can you give me some ideas on how we can get your little brother to help us with the laundry today? Like, how could he help us? Right. So you're kind of like teaching her to be hunt-gather parent. Right.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't get rid of all of it, but it changes the dynamic of the relationship. Right. Because now she has a little bit more power, which I think she should, you know, that's her role in life, is to take care of him, to be a big part of taking care of him, like both emotionally and physically. And so you do the same things instead of it, you know, can you do this? It's, oh, can you do this for your little brother? Or can you help him do this? Right. So it's the same method. It's just now she's doing parts of it. Right. And applied to him. So we had a kid that was in our neighborhood, real tough kid, can be really mean and destructive. And I would have him over, and he was a couple years older than Rosie. And I would say things like, oh, Hayden, you know, do you think you could take Rosie down to the park and watch her and make sure she's all right and keep an eye out on her? And like, you think you could do that? Are you ready to do that? You know, and he would really like take the responsibility to do it, and like would do it. And he would be really well behaved. So it was almost like he, like, again, like needed some sort of responsibility, or needed people to do something that mattered to somebody. And it was really striking to me how his behavior would change when he was like in charge of another kid, you know. So
absolutely.
Try it. But I do hear somewhere it goes too far. The older child becomes the dominating control person. And like, you don't want that either, right? So it's like,
it's a balance.
That might be better than that actually might have some advantages over the competitiveness. I think the competitiveness is really hard. So
yeah, absolutely. It is.
And you can ignore a lot of it too, or just move. In the 1-year-old, you can move around.
For sure.
You know, you can just take him kind of out of the situation.
Yeah.
You know, like just kind of like there's no tolerance for it. I don't know if I don't think I have that in the book, but one of my moms would always say, I just don't tolerate it. And I was always asking her, like, well, what do you mean? Like, as I would say, like, I would just nag. And she's like, yeah, but I just don't tolerate it. And I'm like, well, how do you just not tolerate it? And I think she would often move the whining or the small child out of the house, or she would change the situation so that it could no longer happen. You know, like a parent was talking to me yesterday about how one of the boys just whines all the time. And I think a lot of parents around the world would, at the moment the kids started to whine, like just like even just one sound, would turn their back and run away. So you wouldn't even let the kid whine, right? Like
wow.
Instead of like hearing it, right? Like, you know, like just the kind of nipping things in the bud. Because these things become habits, right, for kids. And so it's just like, nope, you're not even, if a kid whines without you there, is he whining? I don't think so.
No, for sure not. You need the
right?
audience.
Like, whine all by yourself, but like, you know? So kind of similar with that. If she starts hitting him or bugging him, like, I don't know if you can just kind of, so you don't even have to say anything to her, like move him.
True. I'm going to try that for sure. So, and I see that time is running up so fast. I have a million questions I could ask you. So, but let's do this, because this is, I think, going to be fun for people listening. So if a modern Western family wanted to experiment with one or two ideas of yours, where would you suggest they start? What's a good one or two things to try?
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful things you can do is just to stop arguing with your kid. Like, completely stop. This was really transformative for me. So anytime I felt like I was going to argue with Rosie or my husband, to be honest, I would just say, I put my hand on their shoulder gently, and I would just be like, I'm not going to argue with you. And I'd walk away.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, there's like 1-2% of the time where like you actually have to have the kid do things. But half of that time, the kid will do it anyway if you walk away. I promise you. Like, they know. Like you said earlier in the conversation, they know what to do. You telling them again is not going to help. Like, one of the Inuit moms said to me, if you're asking a kid to do something 5-6 times, who's the ignorant one? Right? Like,
fair point.
You know, like, okay. So yeah, try that. And just be like, we're going to have a policy of we're never going to argue. And like, we never argue. I mean, it's like wonderful.
Wow.
My husband and I, sometimes we still argue, but the kid, no. So that would be like number, but it went down a lot. That would be like, it's just not worth it. Like, it's just not, like, in many cultures, parents just don't argue with children. Like, it just doesn't happen. Like, there's no reason to, you know? It's like, what are you getting from it? I'm not. Yeah, exactly. Okay. It's a habit. I think it's a habit, and we hear it a lot. So, and then I think the other thing is what you said. I think getting them and welcoming them to do something once or twice a day that you're doing, okay, stop feeling the need to entertain them. Like, they don't need us to entertain them. Especially if you have 2 kids, they don't need you at all, but they do. So stop that. Like, you don't need to overschedule them. You don't need to set up things for them. They don't need screen time. But they do need, like, to be involved in your life just a little bit. So, like, I say to parents, like, start off once a day when you're doing something. Say, hey, come. You can say it very lovingly. Hey, my love, come over here and cut these carrots. Help me cut these carrots. Or cut these carrots. Just tell them directly. Or put these books away. Just one short, very quick, easy command that they can do. It doesn't take a lot of effort. It doesn't take a lot of time. So they do it, and then you're grateful. Thank you. That was helpful. Like, if you just do that like once a day, it's gonna change the child's perception of you. It's going to make them so much happier. And it's also you're going to start teaching them to be helpful. So try that once a day, and then move to twice a day. But these are literally super quick things.
Perfect.
You don't want it to be really hard or long. Like I would make the mistake of telling Rosie when she was 3, like, help me unload the dishwasher. Well, she didn't know really what that meant, right? So it's like, here, put these forks away, put this fork away, or pick that plate up, hand me this plate, put this plate on the table, right? When you set the table with a little kid, hand them the plate, put this on the table, and then by the time they're 7, 8, 9, they can do the whole thing, right? Without you even really teaching them, they'll know.
That's perfect. We'll do that. And you already mentioned it, your new book, Dopamine Kids. I'm really curious. I have not read it yet because of my little ones.
Yes, they're very little.
Yeah. Why did you write it, and who is it for?
So I wrote it because, one, when I talk about Hunt Gather Parent, and we have question and answers, it's the first question parents ask me, what do you do with screens? So that was what got me really curious, because when I wrote Hunt Gather Parent, Rosie was really young and screens weren't really a big deal. But then as Rosie got older, I also started to kind of worry about my own phone usage and my own kind of obsession with my phone, and really noticing that I was having trouble enjoying being with Rosie without my phone, and really realizing what is this teaching her? And, as she gets older, I could see the screen time and the pressure for screen time come in more and more. And so I started to study why I was so kind of addicted to my phone. And I started to discover some really fascinating things that I hadn't heard in the media. And I started to learn some new skills about how to handle these devices that we have in our lives. Because Hunt Gather Parent is advice that works everywhere on all kids. But a lot of the advice in there doesn't work with these products we have now that are intentionally designed for us to overuse them, right? Like ultra processed food is intentionally designed for kids to overeat, for adults to overeat. Netflix is intentionally designed, YouTube, for kids to watch it for 24 hours a day, right? And so we can't really use the same tools that we've been using. We just need a couple other tools, and we have to kind of build a life that kind of incorporates these tools. And then it's not that hard. I think the advice out there about screens and ultra processed foods doesn't work. It's really outdated. And once I learned the tools that do work, our life got so much easier and so much more pleasurable. Because dopamine is not pleasure. It is desire and wanting and motivation. And I think it's our job as parents to make sure that all that desire and wanting goes to things that actually really fill up the child and make them feel good. And so that's what the system is there for, originally. And so that book teaches parents how to do that, and do that for yourself, So you're excited and want to do activities that at the end leave you feeling really good, and optimistic, give you that mood boost instead of leaving you kind of just wanting more,
That sounds like a really important book.
I think the idea is, my hope is that it will help a lot of families. I mean, I've gotten some really good feedback about it, and but it's a tough problem. We're in uncharted territory, and it's come really fast, but it's not hopeless. I mean, seriously, when you make a couple of shifts, it becomes so much easier. So,
okay, that's good. That's
yes.
good. There are things to do.
Yes, and the things not to do as well, which you learn. But thank you so much. It's been really fun talking.
Yes. I had a great time talking to you. And then lastly, before I let you go, where can people learn more about you and your work and your books?
Yes, so I'm not on social media because I can't handle it, and I'm not a big fan. But I have a website that I spend a lot of time on to make, and you can email me there, and I read them all, and I try to get back to all of them. So
super. Thank you so much for today. I had such a good time talking to you, and I'm looking forward to trying a lot of new things again with my daughter.
Yes,
it's gonna be
let
really
me know
fun.
how it goes. Thank you.
I will.
It was a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Have a good time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.